What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's blogging theboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited because it is time to do this again. When I say this, I mean the postgame. Welcome, of course, to our live postgame show here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel, Twitch channel, and Facebook page. My name is RJ Ochoa. You know me from all throughout the Blog of the Boys universe, and the postgame, once again, is visible on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook. We've been doing this for years now. It is my esteemed privilege. It is one of the greatest honors of my life, and I say that with full seriousness, to be able to talk to all of you after every Dallas Cowboys game, whether you are here live, whether you catch it after the fact, whether you listen to it. This is also accessible on the Blog and the Boys podcast network. It is so cool to me that we can all come together and, of course, talk about our favorite team, talk about what we liked, talk about what we didn't like. And the offseason is just too long. Look, I like other sports as well. I got the Houston Astros on in the background. I know there's a lot of Texas Rangers fans who follow us at Blog and the Boys, but there's nothing like football, and football is officially back. So it's great to be with all of you, even if it is just in a preseason capacity. Let's check our comment section. Loco, Texas says, RJ, what is up? Rick Ursulini already chiming in saying the O-line was not good. We will, of course, get to my stock report. I've already written the article for it. I've got an Instagram post up, stock down. We're doing way more than 10 this year. We're doing whatever is necessary, whatever we have liked and did not like with regards to the Dallas Cowboys. If you are watching on YouTube, we have a special treat for you. If you're not, we love you just the same, but we have our star of the game poll up on that top right corner. If you are watching, and that's only for the people catching it live, our star of the game poll is open. Who was the star of the game for the Dallas Cowboys in their preseason opener? I hate to call it preseason loss. I know they did technically lose. Preseason opener star of the game for the Cowboys, Deuce Vaughn. I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty easy vote. But Deuce Vaughn, Jalen Tolbert, DeMarvion Overshown, or Damone Clark were the names that made the most sense to us. So my first immediate takeaways is Jorge chimes in on Facebook, says, what's up, RJ? Mikey Montano, a great friend of mine, says Deuce and Overshown killed it. Greer and Mozzie were mid. Oh, yeah, and Man U sucks. Glory, glory, Man United. Manchester United, the finest club in all of England, plays on Monday. It's great to have the Premier League back. It just does kind of feel like fall. I know the weather's doing its best to catch up for all of us, but it's great to have the Premier League back. College football right around the corner. Serious baseball games, as mentioned, and, of course, football. Charting Cowboys says Mozzie should be in the poll. I voted Deuce. Thank you for outing your vote. This is like a political game here. This is like Big Brother on steroids where you're telling everybody who you voted for. Ron the Don Smith says, what's up, RJ? Tiburon Designs 209 says, so good to have football back. My immediate takeaways. I know they lost, and there are going to be some people who are like, Cowboys lost, blah, 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 whatever. If anybody says that to you in your life, ignore them. You have my full and total permission. Say, RJ Ochoa told me that I can ignore you. It does not matter. The Cowboys looked great. I thought, for the most part, for what it's worth, the Jacksonville Jaguars did trot out their starters in this game. For the first couple of series, the Cowboys did not. And the game got started really in an amazing sort of fashion for the Cowboys. Again, not playing their star players, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs, et cetera, et cetera. The Jaguars, excuse me, did win the toss and did elect to receive and did elect to dare to cross Wanye Thomas, who on the second play of the game came up with the first interception of the preseason for the Dallas Cowboys.
Play action to Etienne behind the line of scrimmage, and Lawrence has plenty of time looking way downfield, and it's intercepted. Did he get a foot in bounds? He did. Nice job by Wanye Thomas, who continues the camp that he had in Oxnard.
And the whole time I had my eyes on number 30, Mr. Wanye.
How dare you? How dare I think that there was a new animation. I can't wait to test that out as we get along. Sometimes our platform here comes up with new updates. So that was kind of cool to see. By the way, Troy says, couldn't wait for the Astros game to end. Shame. Sorry about that, Troy. Look, it was awesome. And again, the fact that it's happening against, Trevor Lawrence, who certainly ended last season as one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, the Jaguars very famously, of course, won a playoff game, got to the divisional round, flirted with beating the Chiefs when Patrick Mahomes was injured. It was just a really, really really nice thing to see that happen for the Cowboys. We've talked so much about regression to the mean, right? And that's going to be coming for this team. That was going to come for them last year. And you can't control that sometimes bad passes are thrown and you can benefit from that. But it was very cool to see. Loco Texas says, honey, RJ Ochoa said to shut your filthy mouth. Those were not my exact words. How you want to go about that is completely up to you. DC for Live Texas says it's preseason. Charting Cowboy says anyone who cares about wins and losses in the preseason ain't worth the conversation. I mean, I'm happy that we all know that to be true. DFW AV Geek 521 says I was at the game, so I don't know where you're at. DFW AV Geek 20 or 521 if you're in the car, if you left early, whatever the case may be. But good for you. Rick Ursulini says Cowboys won, even though the score didn't reflect that. I completely agree with you. I suppose it's, we might as well just do it. If it isn't obvious, by the way, Wanye Thomas stock up. If you generate a turnover, you're going to make my stock up list. If you cause a turnover, if you're responsible for a turnover, this is a bit of a spoiler. You're going to be stocked down. Those are just the rules around here. You put the ball on the ground in this particular case, and you are stocked down. I don't know how we can get any further without talking about it. I wanted to go in chronological order as best as I could, but holy crap, Deuce Vaughn. I mean, this really was the Deuce Vaughn game. So Deuce finished 8 carries, 50 yards, a touchdown, had the 26-yard run as well that led to the score. This is one of those things, and it feels kind of similar to the Kevontae Turpin stuff a year ago when he was lighting things up. Excuse me, although that was only in a return capacity. We've all kind of been hoping and wondering and almost trying to manifest Deuce Vaughn into becoming this thing for the Cowboys, and it really does feel like he's that. I know that we're all or that there are factions of Cowboys fans who believe in Rico Dowdle or Malik Davis, and I think that there are room for those players on the team. Hunter Lipke had a moment in this game. In fact, just to kind of go through this, Malik Davis had 4 carries for 3 yards. He got the first bit of action for the Cowboys as far as the running back position was concerned. Rico Dowdle had 6 carries for 21 yards. Lipke, as mentioned, 3 carries for 6 yards. And we, of course, talked about Vaughn with the 8 for 50 and the score. And I mean, this seems real. Like, again, I want to protect our emotions because we've all been burned in the past, but it is very clear and very obvious. And I was at Cowboys training camp all of last week with my friends from San Antonio Sports Star. If you watched, we did some update videos on our YouTube channel, myself and Rudy J kind of recapping what we saw. And it was obvious to me then, like it's been to many people, that Deuce Vaughn is going to be a part of this offense, that Mike McCarthy is kind of focused on getting him involved, that this is more than just the story of his father and his size and everything like that. This is a real contributor that the Cowboys have to their offense. And I feel like we completely and totally saw that, in small fashions on Saturday afternoon at AT&T Stadium. Let's see here. Loco Texas says, remember K-State beat TCU? He was the reason. Kevin says, Deuce 6-yard down the field before being seen. D-Day 2, it's hard to disagree with this, although I think I would. Says Vaughn looked like the best player on the Cowboys tonight. Pablo says, RJ, saludos. Thoughts on Mozzie? We'll get to Mozzie Smith in a little bit, I promise. DFW AV Geek 521 offers. They're in the car. So be safe driving DFW AV Geek, but great to see you're joining us fresh off of appearing at the game at AT&T Stadium. JT Smith on the Book of Faces says Deuce juked 2 defenders and made them run into each other. Special kid. I mean, we might as well put it up like this is the highlight. I just like what? Like this is what?
Billy be able to press the line of scrimmage, put his foot in the ground, change directions. Whoop! There goes a good old spin move, and he gets another spin move. Everybody's gonna miss.
Now you see me, now you don't. Eric Hallett. Yeah, no chance for Hallett there.
That's not the point. That is the new animation, by the way. Shout out. I don't have a problem supporting them. Shout out to StreamYard. They are who we host our show with, and they're great friends of ours. And they've added kind of a dissolve animation. I know the podcast audience can't see that, but before it, I don't know if any of you remember, it was just like this cut last year. So that is cool. It's preseason for all of us in a lot of different ways. Yeah, man. Deuce looks for real. I'm ready to buy in. And the drum that I've beat the most has been, we talked so much at the end of last year, the last post game that we did, right? When Tony Pollard got hurt, the Cowboys were down in the explosive player department. All they had was CeeDee Lamb. And obviously they have returned Tony Pollard on the franchise tag. Deuce Vaughn now part of the fold. Kevontae Turpin a part of the fold. Brandon Cook's a part of the fold. Michael Gallup is healthier than he was at this time a year ago. It is very clear that this offense is going to be more explosive and has more explosive options, and I totally think that Deuce Vaughn is a part of that. Rick offers Deuce can play. He also had 4 or more catches. Deuce's actual stat line, just to be clear, just to be exact, 3 catches for 6 yards off of 3 targets. So it was 100% completion in that particular sense. ACO says Deuce, Tolbert, Clark, Jocks, and Stevens had a good game. I think you're talking about Jabril Cox right there. I didn't feel passionately about Jabril Cox in this game. I guess we might as well kind of roll through some more stock ups. We already went through Wanye Thomas. We went through Deuce Vaughn. We could sit here and do the whole show on Deuce Vaughn, but in the interest of just kind of spicing things up, we're not going to do that. DeMarvion Overshown, and this is difficult for me to say as a very proud fighting Texas Aggie, but DeMarvion Overshown looked awesome, and I was really skeptical about that pick. In fact, I think all of us, I remember when we did our draft coverage here at Blog on the Boys, day 2 was kind of a lackluster sort of affair for the Cowboys with Luke Schoonmaker and then DeMarvion Overshown. We all kind of thought, well, Overshown could be like the future replacement, future kind of, passing of the torch from Jaron Kearse, but Overshown looks like a player now. I mean, he looks like a tried and true player now. And if you put stock into these sorts of things before the game, it was DeMarvion Overshown who led the Cowboys in the pregame rah-rah speech, whatever, before they went back into the locker room, before they were introduced to the crowd at AT&T Stadium. Again, I'm not making a mountain. I don't even think that's a molehill, but it is a thing. So it's kind of cool to see. So that is cool. JT Smith says Overshown was everywhere. Tolbert looks improved and Ferguson stepped up. Kevin says Overshown 3rd and 1 tackle was the best play of the game. ACO says Overshown did come to play. I mean, so far, we're going to get to Mazi Smith. I really do feel like this was it's the preseason. That's important to mention, right? Like in the preseason, you're seeing players down the roster or rookies or whatever the case may be. And in a lot of senses, I mean, I do think Mazi Smith played better as the game wore on. Luke Schoonmaker had a moment. In fact, what did Luke Schoonmaker finish completely at? I think it was 1 target, 1 catch for 8 yards. So, I mean, literally the smallest possible sample size, but still a nice moment nonetheless. Overshown played really well. We're obviously singing Deuce Vaughn's praise. We'll get to Eric Scott in a moment, but it was a really, really, really good day for most of the rookie class. Zach says Overshown showed out versus their starters. He really did. I mean, you got to be really, really impressed. I've been a bit skeptical about the Cowboys linebacker depth because it's I don't feel like it's a house, built on sand, but we know that Leighton Vander Esch has a precarious injury history, and outside of him, it's felt like the Cowboys are really betting on Damone Clark and to a different degree, DeMarvion Overshown. They let Luke Gifford walk in free agency. Luke Gifford, who had a fumble recovery earlier today for the Tennessee Titans, by the way. But that being said, DeMarvion Overshown played really well, and so did Damone Clark. I have been a bit slower to kind of come around on the Damone Clark stuff as well. There are a lot of people who just kind of see an amazing season in store for him. One of our podcasts at Blog on the Boys, the First and 10 podcast with Tony Catalina and Aiden Davis, they, in the last 2 weeks, have had on Kyle Yeomans, who did a fantastic job tonight on the call. Kyle, great job, buddy. Super proud of you. Kyle Yeomans and Nick Harris, both of the mothership, were on back-to-back weeks, and both said that they really, really, really can see Damone Clark playing well this year. And I have to say, after one preseason game, I am definitely buying stock. I recognize I'm later to the party, but Damone Clark was everywhere, I thought. I mean, just like DeMarvion Overshown, I mean, I really was just kind of so impressed with what the Cowboys linebacker depth looks like. And maybe that's, I know that there's a new Ninja Turtle movie out, but do you guys remember the last one? Or I guess there were 2 of them where the turtles were like 9 feet tall or whatever. When I saw that first movie, I thought it was going to be terrible. Like everybody I spoke to was like, this movie sucks. And I went and saw it and it was kind of good. And I don't know if it was because my expectations were so low that the movie just kind of over delivered in that sense. I felt that way about the Mario movie recently to, kind of offer a more recent analogy, but that's kind of how I feel about this linebacker group. So maybe they're the Ninja Turtles Mario of the overall team, and that I had some low expectations and I'm impressed in this respect. So let's see. Let's move over to a negative. A lot of you are now talking about the offensive line. You guys just wanted to go here. All right. Mikey says the offensive line was not decent. LOL. Here we go. This is in response to Daryl's comment. Daryl says we got some team depth. Looks like even offensive line was decent. Daryl, I hate to kind of pile on with the comment section, but Mikey says the offensive line was not decent. Estevan says stock down offensive line. ACO Says the OL was bad. Please pay that man. Talking about Zach Martin. Of course, Kevin even says stock up Zach Martin. He was the big winner from today. I will say that this is my like most cheap stock report note. Stock down the offensive line in general. It was not a great day for the Cowboys offensive line. I don't think it was like the worst day of all time if we're trying to be optimistic, I suppose, but it was not a good day. And I don't know that Zach Martin is like the answer to that. I mean, he's obviously, the best thing you can do to fix this issue, but Zach Martin wouldn't have played today. You know what I mean? If we're being honest with ourselves, Zach Martin would have been playing against the Jaguars. And so you've got to pay Zach Martin. You've got to take care of that situation. But this is just a testament to the lack of depth along the offensive line. If you are looking for what's the thread that can unravel this season for the Dallas Cowboys, because we're sitting here and we're throwing flowers at all these different position groups, right? Well, the thread is the offensive line, whether it's Zach Martin holding out or one player gets hurt or two players get hurt, or there's some sort of, combination that has to be yielded among your depth pieces. It does not look like something that can fly right now, right? Like this is a plane that can't get off the ground. So that's a tough scene in many respects. So stock down for the Cowboys offensive line as a whole. Let's see here. Pablo says Clark looks good. Looked like he improved from last season. A combo of Clark and Overshown could be good, along with Leighton Vander Esch. I agreed. I'm going to disagree with a little bit here. JT on Facebook says another missed point after attempt. Go get a veteran kicker ASAP. This will bite us down the road. Now, I'm not going to disagree that this could bite the Cowboys down the road. And my stock report was very long today. If you read it at blogontheboys.com or on my Instagram, you'll notice it is way more than 10 people. A special shout out to our producer here who had a problem with that because, look, it's the first preseason game. We're kind of dialing into our routines and whatnot. And so that being said, I do have Brandon Aubrey as a stock up, but it is a loose stock up, all right? He had the missed extra point. That's a no-no. You can't do it. I'm not going to sit here and explain this away or justify it. You can't miss an extra point. It's just, no, you can't do it no matter what. There's nothing you can say that's going to make me go, all right, cool, that's fine. Like, we'll excuse it. But he did make the first extra point. He did make the last extra point, and he made a field goal. So he, 75%, right? Like he was 3 of 4 in the overall. It's a passing grade, right? Again, the bar is really low here. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay continuing to experiment with Brandon Aubrey is really how I feel now. I don't feel great about it. If the Cowboys tomorrow brought in a veteran kicker as some sort of competition, I would be totally fine with that. In fact, I would encourage that, but I'm not ready to toss Brandon Aubrey to the side, I guess. Maybe I've just learned to be patient in my older age, but I'm more willing to give Brandon Aubrey a slight benefit of the doubt at this point. So I'm cool hanging on right here. I'm going to hold at this point. Kevin says, RJ, stock up Aubrey. Love you, man, but that is a bad take. I'm not saying cut him, but stock up. No, look, the guy made 3 of his 4 kicks. Again, I recognize how silly this sounds, right? Like they were giving him props, but I mean, it was not going well at the beginning of training camp. And so he has steadied the ship a little bit. And that's where I'm saying, like, stock up does not mean that your stock is high, right? That's the thing about the stock report that I have to kind of reinforce every year. Stock up does not mean you were one of the best players on the team, but it means your stock did rise. I do think that Brandon Aubrey is closer to earning this job right now than he was 12 hours ago. But again, that's not exactly a powerful or a profound statement. So it just kind of is what it is. But it's my weakest stock up. I have no problem admitting that. Another stock up for me, we talked about Thomas, Overshown, Clark. We talked about Deuce Vaughn. Let's just get to it. He's on the thumbnail of the image here. Why don't we talk about Mazi Smith? I do think that, by the way, Joe says Aubrey got his 1 missed extra point mulligan. I like that. Mazi, I thought he played better as the game went along. Was it a stout performance? No. Was it, something we'll remember forever, like the Deuce Vaughn stuff? No. But he did get better as the game went along. There was that sequence in the first half where, the Jaguars got down near the goal line and Mazi back-to-back plays on first and second down was a part of the group that just kind of clogged the line. And ultimately the Jaguars ended up scoring. I think it was actually second and third down. They went for it on fourth down. But ultimately the Jaguars kind of rolled out right and scored. And, Mazi can't be everywhere, right? But I do think that we saw Mozzie do things that he was brought in to do, right? That's the idea, right? He was coming for run support. He was coming to be that guy, that force along the middle of the defensive line. And I think we saw some legitimate and some profound growth in that sense. So I'm totally willing to give Mozzie Smith a stock up. So good for him in that sense. I see a lot of people are ready to do this, and I have no problem handing out another stock up, and that is to Jalen Tolbert. Tolbert had the great catch that didn't count, and I think we were all like, oh man, like we're gonna have to talk about that for a week, like the awesome catch that didn't count, but it did count because it's preseason and whatever. Thankfully, Jalen Tolbert had an awesome catch that counted, and it was a touchdown.
Greer with a pocket, throws over the middle, Jalen Tolbert into the end zone, and Dallas is on the board.
Great job, Will Greer, being patient, going through your progression. He looked front side for.
Good for Jalen Tolbert, man. Good for Jalen Tolbert. That was so awesome. That was very, very cool to see. Tolbert has obviously had, or I mean, I say that like it's been forever. Wait a minute. I was just making sure this wasn't anything. Okay, great. By the way, friend of the show, John Owning, does great work for Pro Football Focus. Tweeted out per PFF's initial review, Deuce Vaughn averaged 5.4 yards after contact per attempt versus the Jaguars, which was the most throughout the game of any player. That is super duper impressive. Deuce Vaughn is our hero, but Jalen Tolbert is as well. The hype has been all over the place with Jalen Tolbert. ACO says Tolbert did his thing. You can see the growth. I respect how he talked about his struggles last year and how hard he has worked. He looks good. The thing I really respect about Tolbert is he has not once ever blamed the team. He has not once ever said, you know what, the team was counting on me, I wasn't able to be that. Because that's true, right? Like, we don't have to sit here and relitigate this subject. The Cowboys were very dumb about how they went about the wide receiver position last year. So much so that they were begging players like T.Y. Hilton to play for them as the season wore on. And that it was just never a good bet to bet on Jalen Tolbert, you know, being an amazing player as a third-round rookie. And Jalen Tolbert, to his credit, did put in the work, did, you know, grind it out, and has been on fire all throughout the offseason, all throughout training camp, and now has a touchdown, the first touchdown of the preseason, by the way, for the Cowboys, to go to his name. Now, it's the preseason, right? You know, you've got to kind of put it together, but we even saw him sort of, I wouldn't say fall apart, but remember he had the drops against the Chargers last year in the preseason, and we kind of explained it away, said it's just the preseason, nobody freak out, whatever. I mean, I think we're all, it's very, very cool. Jalen Tolbert deserves a lot of credit, a lot of kudos. So shout out to you, Jalen Tolbert. You deserve a lot of credit. Danae, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Sherelle, again, hope I'm getting that name correct, says, how many receiving yards did Jalen have today? All told, Jalen Tolbert finished the day against the Jaguars, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 29 yards, and the score, a long of 17. So a 17-yard catch and a 12-yard catch. It was very, very, very cool to see. So shout out to them. But anyway, let's see here. Let's get this comment off the screen. Jalen Tolbert gets a stock up for me. A very quick one. Sam Williams, sparingly played, but I thought Sam Williams was very good in limited action. I'm so pumped about, and that's the thing. Like we're sitting here and talking about how the rookies on the Cowboys played really well today for the most part. The second-year players, obviously, with Jalen Tolbert and Sam Williams and Tyler Smith, obviously. I mean, those first 3 picks from the Cowboys a year ago have the chance to all be really special contributors to their team here in 2023. And Sam Williams, again, we're talking about some small moments here, but I thought Sam Williams was very, very, very good against the Jaguars. But stock up Jake Ferguson. Now, I have not been the believer that a lot of people have. And I will shout out again Tony Catalina from the Blog and the Boys Network and say that he has believed. Now, the belief in Jake Ferguson, in my mind, has not been born of logic by a lot of people. It's been born by hope, right? There's a difference between hope and belief. You can want something to happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have sound reason to believe in it. Jake Ferguson had very limited action as a rookie last year for the Cowboys. But so far this, preseason and training camp period has looked the part, has looked like tight end one for the Cowboys. He had 3 catches this afternoon for 38 yards off of 3 targets. And he had a very impressive catch that looked like something we could see him making on a weekly basis.
Before you're looking for these safeties, as soon as you see these safeties roll out that way, he know that he has his man right across the middle, wide open in the middle. Great ball, way to be pass friendly there, putting on his back shoulder. So the only person that can come down with that is Mr. Ferguson. Turn and go. Great job, great pass and catch.
Yeah, I saw a friend of the show, David Hillman of Fox Sports, tweeted about that and said that that's a ball that Dak Prescott loves to throw. Like, you could kind of see that, right? Like, if you close your eyes, you can kind of see that on a weekly basis. And so it makes sense that Jake Ferguson could kind of take off and have a, I don't know, like 800 yards, 6 touchdown season for the Cowboys. I could totally see that happening. So very, very cool to see him in action today. Loco says, I think Fergie was great when they did on the Thanksgiving Day whack-a-mole thing. Zach says, Ferg has the attitude to be a star. Very well said. Let's see here. JT Smith. I don't have Boss Man on my my stock report, but Kelvin Joseph did play well. I mean, I said in a video that we had before the game, there were things I wanted to see from the Cowboys, and I wanted to see somebody kind of fight for that wide receiver, that cornerback 6, whatever you want to call it, spot, because as it stands on the Cowboys, right, we can get to 5 pretty easily, I think, with corners, right? We're talking Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore. You've got, Deron Bland. If you want to count Jordan Lewis, although he may open the season on the PUP list, that changes your math a little bit. Eric Scott Jr., who we'll talk about in a moment, that's 5. CJ Goodwin, you have to count for technical reasons, even though he doesn't play the position. So we're at 6. And again, if you don't want to count CJ, you still have to have a 6th, right? So who's it going to be? Is it going to be Kelvin Joseph, or is it going to be Nahshon Wright? It's felt like Nahshon has had the inside track to this point, but I do think that Kelvin had the better game to answer Delvin's question, although that sample size is not very large. Charting Cowboy says, I still get nervous every time Kelvin is on the field. I agree with that for the most part. So I didn't think it was enough to really kind of, shock me or surprise me, but it was okay. I mean, it was worth a moment and a mention here on our postgame show. Let's see here. I wanted to get to, where did this comment go? About Simi. There was a comment about Simi Fehoko. Where is it? I think I've lost it at this point. I don't know where it is about Simi Fehoko, but I thought Simi played well. As well. I think it was ACO. I don't know where ACO's comment went about. Here we go. ACO says, I thought Simi looked okay too. Wished I saw more of the other Jalen after he balled in camp. There are actually 2 other Jalens that you could be referring to. That's Jalen Brooks, the 7th round rookie, or Jalen Moreno Cropper. Jalen Brooks had 5 targets in this game and caught only 1 of them for 3 yards, which is a tough scene. It's what we like to say. So tough scene for Jalen Brooks in that sense. And I agree with you. It's felt like that wide receiver 6 job was his to lose. I do think that Simi Fehoko closed the gap just a little bit tonight. And again, that's where this kind of comes up. This is the stock report, right? Stock up does not mean your stock is high, but it means your stock has improved as a result of the game that we just saw. And I absolutely believe that Simi Fehoko's stock rose. I don't know that there has been, and I would offer anybody the chance to challenge me here, and I'm fine relenting here. Has there been a moment that anybody can remember Simi Fehoko popping, throughout training camp so far? That hasn't happened yet, right? And to the point that we just had, the discussion that we just had, we've seen moments from all of the Jalens, Tolbert, Brooks, and Moreno Cropper. We haven't really seen anything from Simi Fehoko. Today against the Jaguars, Simi 4 catches off of 4 targets, 27 yards, 9 was the long there. So just kind of some dirty work that Simi Fehoko did on a consistent basis. So good for him. I do think that Simi Fehoko is now at least closer to this conversation than he was, which is important. So Simi's actually my final stock up. Just to be very clear here, all of my stock ups, I've got Wanye Thomas, DeMarvion Overshown, Damone Clark, Jake Ferguson, Sam Williams, Jalen Tolbert, Mozzie Smith, Deuce Vaughn, Brandon Aubrey, which all of you hated on, and Simi Fehoko. Those are my stock ups. Let's see here. Daryl says Jalen Brooks way to get hid on the practice squad. Yeah, that's kind of what this was. This is like this is your stash on the practice squad sort of game. ACO says Tolbert is number 4. There really is no question. I don't expect him to be on special teams. I agree. I mean, that's Jalen Tolbert has played his way into like a purely offensive role. Kevin says Simi just hasn't done anything to make me say keep him. I think that's again, like, I don't, if I had to make a 53-man roster right now, I probably wouldn't, but I feel it's more of a debate in my mind than it was this morning for me, which is why I think Simi deserves a stock up mention. We have a few stock downs to get to. In fact, we have only stock downs to get to. We already talked about the offensive line in general. I have 4 stock downs left to hand out. So I will take some input from the crowd if you're willing to discuss. Our only stock down that we have discussed so far is the offensive line in general. But there are 4 that I have written down, and I wrote an article around this at bloggingtheboys.com. Everybody should go there all the time. We have so many great things coming out of BTB. I had an Instagram post about this as well. By the way, ACO says Simi has to do more in the next 2 games for sure. JT says Rush got bailed out a few times on one drive. Should have been 2 picks, 1 to pick 6. Calm down on the – I don't know. I think the Rush over Dak thing, people that are that believe that Cooper Rush is a superior quarterback to Dak Prescott. But so I digress. But I do think that Cooper Rush has the QB2 job like sewed up. I thought that might have been a debate. So I think Cooper Rush is very, very safe in that sense. 10 of 12 for 83 yards today, only sacked 1 time. Let's see here. So y'all's suggestions for stock down. Let's see here. ACO says Eric Scott. Kevin says Davis and Dowdle. Let's see here. Zach says Malik was disappointing. Steve offers stock down Cooper Rush right after I gave some love to Cooper a little bit. My first stock down to kind of get to in this sense, I talked about these are really obvious. All right, these are the super low hanging fruit ones, and I will always take the low hanging fruit. If you put the ball on the ground, that's a stock down move for me. Kevontae Turpin, I understand this was on a punt return, and I'm willing to kind of, throw it away for that reason because I care more about what Kevontae offers to this team on offense than I do on special teams. The NFL is doing everything it can to minimize and whatever, take away and that's a good thing, the return element of football for safety reasons. But no matter what happens, if you put the ball on the ground, it is a stock down situation. You cannot fumble the ball. So Kevontae Turpin is on the stock down list for that reason. So is Rico Dowdle. And again, I think, that was early for Rico in the game. And I think he played really well after. Like I said, he finished with 6 carries for 21 yards. But if you put the ball on the ground, you throw an interception that is unexplainable or whatever, right? If something like that happens, it is a stock down thing. Those are the rules. So for those reasons specifically, Kevontae Turpin and Rico Dowdle are on my stock down list, which means I have 2 more left. And the first one is maybe a little bit contentious in Will Grier. I've thought that this door was at least open for a competition at QB2. And I don't know that Cooper Rush did anything to kind of, open it wider on Saturday, but it remained open, right? Like I don't think Cooper slammed it shut. But I think that Will Grier did. I think that Will Grier slammed that door shut, said, I'm good being the emergency QB3. Shout out to the Niners for creating this job. I mean, Will Grier had the worst little whoops-a-daisy throw to Sean McEwen on an easy first down. And so you cannot have those kind of things happen when there is technically a competition happening at your position, let alone when that position is the most important one on the team. So, I mean, Will Grier for me is stock down. It threw the ball 31 times. I mean, holy crap. 22 completions in that, 199 yards, had the 2 touchdowns, obviously, to Tolbert and to Stevens Jr. I don't have John Stevens Jr. on my list because it was all at the very end, but I'm totally fine throwing him an honorable mention. 5 catches for 56 yards. You lead the team in receiving. You certainly deserve some love. But I thought that Will Grier just left a lot of meat on the bone. Shout out, of course, to Joseph Randall. Dead Shoot 68X says, to me, Will Grier was stocked down on his emotions, stocked up on him, and he didn't really want to listen to Mike McCarthy. I'm not going to read into that. It just, again, it was just kind of a whatever day for me from Will Grier. Kevin says Grier was never going to be QB2, says the team believes Rush can win games. Just, again, a tough day for Will Grier. Now, Kevin is passionate about Davis has to be stocked down just for his pass blocking. Sorry he doesn't do it. I'm fine if you feel passionately about that. I wasn't like, upset about Malik Davis from a rushing standpoint. There are a lot of people who have believed in Malik Davis, a lot of people who have argued him over Rico Dowdle, although Deuce Vaughn again rendered all that moot. 4 carries for 3 yards. He had the first opportunities in the game, and the Jaguars did play their first team defense. So in a way, that's kind of working against Malik Davis because it's like, well, dude, that's what you're going to be facing every week. So you got to perform against these guys. Just kind of a forgettable day for Malik Davis. I mean, it's tough to tell where the Cowboys are going to go short, right? I mean, I think we all think that they're going to carry 3 running backs at the very least. So you've got Pollard, Deuce Vaughn. It depends how much you value Hunter Lipke. At the very least, if you're carrying Hunter, you're carrying one fewer running back, one true running back at least. And it feels like Rico Dowdle does have the inside track over Malik Davis, even with the fumble, because he did rebound well from that. Trey actually says Rico looked better than Malik today. I agree with that. So tough day for Malik Davis. My final stock down, and a lot of you have mentioned this. We've heard nothing but good things about him to this point, but it was not a good day for Eric Scott Jr. He was kind of the only rookie who didn't play well. I thought Eric Scott Jr. just kind of struggled. I would say almost looked a little lost at times. And so, all we've heard, and this is kind of the effect we talked about, right? The Ninja Turtle Mario thing, right? Like, if your expectations are really low and then somebody plays well, it feels like the over delivery happens. And so this is the opposite of that, where our expectations are so high because Eric Scott Jr. has gotten run with the first team. He's had all these reps. He's had all these moments. He had the first interception of training camp, even if that was a tip ball. I mean, so we kind of came into this like, all right, ball out, ESJ, let's go, let's party. And then when that doesn't happen, you kind of feel like, you feel let down and you feel like, well, this wasn't a great game. And it wasn't a great game for Eric Scott Jr. Got beat a lot. And so he kind of looked like a rookie today, and that's okay, right? Like, we're not sitting here and saying like, oh, not worth it, not worth keeping around, not whatever, but it was not a good professional debut for Eric Scott Jr. in that sense. So that's my final stock down. I feel fine about Eric Scott Jr. in the overall, but Saturday was certainly not his day. In case you're curious, in case you don't know, the Cowboys will be back in action next week, a week from today. They visit the Seattle Seahawks. That game starts at 9 p.m. Central. Okay, starts at 9 p.m. Central. So make sure you get the coffee, you get the energy drinks, you get the whatever you need. It's going to be a late night next Saturday night, to say the least, around here. So I'm looking forward to sharing it with all of you. Overall, this was a very good day for the Cowboys. I don't care what the scoreboard says. I don't care what your neighbor or your cousins or the people in your group chat. I don't care what any of them say. I don't care if any of them want to be dumb or silly or ridiculous or trolly about it. Oh, the Cowboys lost, blah, 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 whatever. No. And I don't think the Cowboys, were overshown, I think is a good way to put it. I don't think I think it's impossible. There will be somebody on a national level who tries to discern something from Mike McCarthy's play calling this week. There will be a national show. This is my prediction, that at some point this coming week, we'll try to build off of what we just saw and prove a point about Mike McCarthy as a play caller. We don't have to do that, right? We have to understand that what we just saw needs to be taken with several grains of salt. It's the preseason. You can learn about development. You can have legitimate takeaways, but you can't draw any real hard lines in the sand. I do think that we got confirmation on a lot of things. I think we got confirmation, for example, on Jalen Tolbert, on Deuce Vaughn, on Damone Clark, on DeMarvion Overshown, on Mozzie Smith to a different degree, perhaps on Rico Dowdle. I think we got confirmation in a similar way in some negative ways, right? Maybe you thought that Eric Scott Jr. was going to kind of come down to earth. Maybe you thought that, Simi Fehoko couldn't do this or whatever the case may be. I think it was good for confirmation in a lot of senses. Maybe you feel pleased, or like I do, or not pleased about Brandon Aubrey, but I think all told, the Cowboys kind of accomplished what they wanted to today. They got great opportunities in the red zone. They got great opportunities to work in new skill players like Deuce Vaughn. They got Kevontae Turpin involved offensively. They got to kind of rotate all of the running backs in. Jake Ferguson got in the mix. They got to see Will Grier throw it 31 times. Cooper Rush was, passable. Defensively, they hung with, a very good offense that sent their first teamers out. They had an interception, a takeaway. I mean, Wanye Thomas was this name that Mike McCarthy hyped up for no reason himself. He put Wanye kind of under the microscope that way, and Thomas delivered. And so all those things I think are very positive and very good levels and metrics of confirmation and positive growth and positive development. And it feels like they are justifying all of the things that we have talked about and believed to this point in the process. Now, there is still a process to continue to unfold. Like I said, the next step happens next Saturday night at an ungodly hour. Why would a game start at 9 p.m. Central Time on a Saturday night? I have no idea, but we all have time to watch a movie or whatever the case may be beforehand, so that's fine. But it's the next step, and we have 2 more preseason games to get through. We have a 53-man roster cut down. We have all sorts of kind of hurdles to get through, and this was one of them. And I think that it was a successful step. It was a successful leap for the Cowboys, and so I give them a lot of credit for that. Trey Fargo says all the receivers looked a lot better not under Moore's system. I mean, I know that there's been a lot of people kind of going after Kellen Moore lately. I'm not, I miss Kellen Moore a little bit, but I'm very optimistic about and confident in Mike McCarthy. Rick Ursulini says Isaiah Lane, honorable mention. I'm fine with that. Isaiah Lane, Stevens Jr., they get the honorable mentions. That's cool with me. Kevin, I like this takeaway, says, I am encouraged. We saw our 2s versus a playoff teams first. I like how our 2s looked minus the turnovers. It's all good information. And this was the first bit of real information, right? That's what's, if there is something exciting about the preseason, it is that you get to have legitimate takeaways because they happen against another team, a level of non-control, right? A level of uncontrollable stuff. You can do your best to have your mojo moments and call your TV timeouts and emulate a real NFL setting as much as possible at the River Ridge in Oxnard, California. But at the end of the day, that's not even a preseason game, right? There are elements to an NFL game, whether it's week 2 or week 10 or the divisional round that our team can't get past, that are very, very, very different. Jeremy Buck says, were there any injuries? There was the Malik Jefferson thing that popped up. He left the game. In fact, I just saw a tweet right now from Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News 1 minute ago. So this is great timing. Michael's tweet says, Cowboys linebacker Malik Jefferson injured his plantar fascia in Saturday's exhibition versus the Jaguars and will undergo an MRI on Sunday to help determine the severity. 2 people familiar with the situation said Jefferson was seen walking in the postgame locker room without assistance. So we're certainly rooting for him. That's the most important thing, is that there weren't a barrage of injuries. Again, we're obviously rooting for Malik to feel well as soon as possible, but it checked all the boxes. It was basically everything that we wanted and then some, especially because I think before today, if you had asked any one of us to outline our most optimistic Deuce Vaughn hopes and wants and wishes and dreams, we would have had like a sense of measured optimism, right? It would have been like, well, it would be awesome if he had like 1,000,000 yards, but that will never happen, right? Like, we would have kind of talked ourselves down. But I do think that Deuce Vaughn is sort of like becoming the prince that was promised. And so that is a really kind of fun sort of result from Saturday's action. So if you're new around here, we do this every single week, by the way. Let me check who our star of the game is. I have to pull this up on a different screen here. Our star of the game candidates, you all have been voting all show long, were Deuce Vaughn, the aforementioned Deuce Vaughn, Jalen Tolbert, DeMarvion Overshown, and Damone Clark. And the votes are in, and Damone Clark got 1% of the vote. So I know that the Twitch and Facebook audience can't see that. Damone Clark got 1% of the vote. Jalen Tolbert got 2. DeMarvion Overshown got 12. Meanwhile, Deuce Vaughn led the way with 84% of the vote. So let's get this changed. Our star of the game, let me get this up here now, is, BTB star of the game is, in fact, Deuce Vaughn. He stole the show. He stole our hearts. Deuce Vaughn for now and forever. John says Vaughn and Part will be fun. Our friend I love you know what says Deuce vertical stick. Kevin says Overshown was robbed and I'm a Deuce guy. Ethan says let's go. David says LOL. Ethan says RB2. Congratulations to Deuce Vaughn. We'll get you some sort of gift card in the mail. You are wonderful.
Billy be able to press the line of scrimmage, put his foot in the ground, change directions. Whoop! There goes the good old spin move, and he gets another spin move. Everybody's gonna miss.
Now you see me, now you don't. Eric Hallett. Yeah, no chance for Hallett there.
Well deserved. Well deserved. Miguel Ramirez says for the short people. I mean, this is. I mean, I know that there are a lot of people talking about this. I hope he wears number 42. Like that's the first step. I love it. I don't want him in a different number. 42 looks incredible. Please keep it, Deuce. But beyond that, at some point soon, I would imagine the Cowboys Pro Shop is going to sell Deuce Vaughn jerseys. They are going to take off like crazy. So best of luck to the Cowboys Pro Shop getting enough for people at this point in time. So like I said, if you're new around here, we do this after every Dallas Cowboys game. This is the post game. You can watch this on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. If you haven't, please subscribe. You can watch this on the Blog on the Boys Twitch channel. We're doing that there now. You can also watch this on the Blog on the Boys Facebook page. Like us on Facebook. Follow us there as well. You can listen to this if you're a podcast listener. We have actually a massive podcast network. We have different shows that come out every single day discussing the latest and greatest in the world of the Dallas Cowboys. Wherever you get your podcast, search for Blog on the Boys, subscribe, leave a rating, write a review. Those things help us out more than you really know. And so if you can do that, it would make our hearts feel very happy. If you can check out blogontheboys.com, I write there every day. I've got multiple articles that come out every day. We have a very talented staff that's always churning out articles, 24/7, 365 Dallas Cowboys coverage. That's what we do. And we're grateful that you choose to make us a part of what you do when it comes to consuming content about the Dallas Cowboys. My name is RJ Ochoa. If you don't know, I host the postgame show. I host a lot of shows around here. So I hope that my face doesn't annoy you too much, or my voice. If you would like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Threads, presuming that hangs out through the duration of the NFL season, you can do so at RJ Ochoa. The joke I make all the time is that somebody took that on TikTok, so I had to go with RJ.Ochoa. If you would rather shoot me an email, if you're more old school in that way, you can do so as well. RJ.Ochoa@sbnation.com. Ethan says it's going to be a great season. Daryl Baker says, yes, RJ, A+. David says, thanks, RJ, great as always. I see some of you talking about this. Puncho the King says, hope y'all can finally let go of Zeke. Let's end on a positive note. No fighting, no dissension, no whatever. Lord says, leave a like. I don't know if that's Lord, like, we'll never be royals. If that's you, Lord, thank you. That song got me through the summer of 2013. Yeah, great times. Great, awesome start to the preseason. We'll have lots of stuff coming your way. Like I said, we don't sleep. That's our mission, our goal, our objective, our purpose in life is to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So we're grateful that you want to do that with us. So let's go ahead and get out of here. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful evening, rest of your weekend. I hope you make something delicious. I hope that your other teams win, unless they're the Texas Rangers for obvious reasons. And I can't wait to see you soon and do it all again. Next Saturday, we're up super late. Next Saturday's got some Pac-12 after dark vibes, even though that's like not a thing anymore. I know that's a sensitive subject. But yeah, next Saturday is going to be a lot of fun. So thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. As always, go Cowboys, and we'll see you next time.